I manage everything from development, manufacturing, straight through commercialization, sales, marketing.
Okay. What does SiO2 do?
So we are a material science company. We manufacture, develop, research material science. We've invented a new technology, which is a fusion of glass and plastic. So basically, a plastic shell with a nano layer or microscopic layer of glass on the inside. What that does, it allows us to, we effectively have a platform that created a new material. And this material merges the best of plastic and the best of glass without the drawbacks of either. Um, Commercial applications right now is primarily in the pharmaceutical vaccines as well as the molecular diagnostic space. We're based in Auburn, Alabama, spent the last 10 years in research and development, and have started commercializing this particular product, I would say, in the last year or so.
Okay. Now, it sounds like your technology, with regard to the vials anyway, it sounds like you're making a sort of a polymer out of glass and plastic. Is that
Well, so the outside is polymer. So think of polymer as plastic, right? So it's a
right?
medical grade plastic. The challenge with plastic alone is that it doesn't have a barrier to oxygen or a barrier to moisture. So all these advanced biological drugs, including all the mRNA vaccines, are sensitive to oxygen and moisture. So you can't use a regular plastic container. The problem with glass is glass breaks, and it breaks even more when you get to super low temperatures that most of these advanced vaccines require. In addition to that, there are additional long-term stability issues with glass delamination. So metal ions coming off of the glass container over time that dilute or interact with the drugs. So that's commonly known, and a lot of the glass companies, find ways to mitigate. They put in certain processes. They spend more money on trying to find ways to reformulate the drug. Our glass lining is pure and doesn't come off. So it's a safer product. Not only doesn't break, but the interaction of the drug and vaccine with the contact surface is a safer product.
Okay, so I guess so the glass does it is the glass a sleeve, or does it fuse with the plastic, or how
So
does that work exactly?
it's covalently bonded. So the inside, how do I say, the nano layer. So it's 50 times thinner than a human hair. So you
Right.
won't see it. If you look at the container, it looks like a regular, glass or highly visible plastic, container. If you're looking at it, it looks like glass. If you hold it, it's about 50% lighter than glass. And if you throw it over a wall or drive over it with a tank, it won't break, whereas glass will. We can withstand up to 1,500 of direct force. So if you wanted to, when you're measuring it, glass breaks at anywhere between 200, 400 pounds. Whereas effectively I don't want to say we're invincible, but we don't break. We don't crack.
Sure, sure. Okay, so how did you all come to be in business with Moderna and the federal government?
So we've been testing our technology with companies like Moderna for, I would say, over 2 years. And this is before COVID. And the technology we were testing it's the same technology, but primarily in syringes, not just vials. And typically the companies have to do testing in different containers. They like the attributes we have. Most of the mRNAs require some bit of cold storage, so our vial is perfectly suited for that. At the same time, we were talking to the Department of Defense and parts of the federal government about our unbreakable syringes for auto injectors. So that's been going on. Those discussions have been going on for a while as well. And then COVID hit. And then when COVID hit, there was an understanding that there were two main problems facing the United States. One, there is a lack of supply chain for the glass inside the US. So more than 94%, 95% of the raw materials for glass tubing for the vials and syringes is outside of the United States, right?
Right.
So that's a problem. And then at the same time, there is also a shortage because there was a crackdown on, some companies in China, India, Brazil, that were not manufacturing to a certain specification. So some of those plants were shut down. The good ones, or the better ones, are based in Germany and Italy, still outside of the U.S., obviously. And with the glass shortage, there was already some tense elements of shortage of the glass. Then you say, okay, now we need a vaccine to vaccinate the world, and you have anywhere between 5 and 10 vaccine providers that could come out in the next year, and they all need the same amount of glass to vaccinate the world. The glass shortage went through the roof, right? So it's basically stuck.
Sure.
So we're not affected by the raw material of glass. We don't use any of the materials of glass, even though we're producing a glass-like barrier. That's more through chemistry. And for us to manufacture and scale, because of our polymer molding process, it takes 3 to 4 months, versus glass manufacturing to scale needs 18 to 24 months. So the timing all came together in our discussions, and I'm saying, look, we love your technology, it's great. We also understand you can scale fast. So can you help us with that? That all led to eventually a lot of due diligence, scientific studies, discussions, negotiations, and voila, in June, we got a grant for $143 million from the federal government, through which is now known as Operation Warp Speed, to manufacture and produce specialty, or what we call fusion hybrid vials,
Right.
using our technology for vaccines or any other pandemic if it happens in the future. At that same time, in parallel, we were in discussions with Moderna, and they found our vials suitable for their vaccine. And we're now manufacturing vials for Moderna for the packaging of their vaccine.
Okay. What's you you noted how you're able to scale up quicker than, say, someone who is producing glass products. I would imagine, though, that this isn't exactly like, the old tool and die process where you're just changing a production line. I mean, it's much more exacting work than that. Explain a little bit what went into you going from making syringes to being able to produce vials at such a scale.
Sure. So we were producing vials and syringes already. We were producing about, to give you scale, we were producing about 10 to 20 million per year. So now we needed to move to producing 10 to 20 million a month. So you're talking about a 12x
Sure.
capacity expansion. So from a technology perspective, we have the know-how. We know how to do it. We had the technology. It was a matter of how fast can we build this stuff, getting our own supply chain in order, building additional buildings and factories. So we basically had to hire a significant amount of people. We have strong partners already in what we were doing. Most of what we do is vertically integrated, from a quality control perspective, not from not to save money, but really to manage our quality.
Sure.
That all came to play, and we were able to scale up pretty fast. So in a matter of 3.5 months, we went from, basically 10 million vials a year to just short of 100 million vials. And now we're on target to hit the end of more than 120 million vials annual capacity. So the buildings are built. We went from 1 building to 3 buildings, fully operational. As of, I think it was end of October, all 3 buildings were fully operational. Went from 109 employees to well over 550. Right, so we've done significant scaling in our headquarters. The one thing where we probably forgot that we didn't think about was parking. So the town got a little bit upset with us, but that's something that we just
Parking issues in Auburn, that's hard to believe.
well, I mean, think about it. You're going, you're 5xing the number of employees. We built the factory, but the factory it has 40 parking spots. So we didn't think about, oops, you're adding all these production workers. They're going to need a place to park. So we've solved that now by bulldozing behind us the grass and put some concrete down. So we have parking available. But that was a bit of people ask me all the time, what didn't you anticipate? I always say potato chips and parking, right? So people need, in the break room, we need more space in the break room. We need more break food, and we need more parking. And that's something that we just it wasn't top of mind.
Now, okay, you mentioned obviously the pretty good sized jump in your workforce. Uh, Talk a little bit about your partnership with the city. How did they help as far as uh, getting uh, getting everything squared away so that you could expand your footprint out there, so that you could find employees? Obviously, this is work that requires. I mean, you can't just hire anybody off the street to do this work. Talk a little bit about how the city helped you with all that.
Well, the city was extremely helpful first on organizing job fairs for us. So getting people, getting the word out, getting the job fairs done. One of the job fairs we hired 71 people in 4 hours, right? So that was great, and they brought in qualified people. We were also lucky, and I always hate to say this, but we got lucky with COVID to some extent because unfortunately there were a lot of factories that had to shut down, of other businesses, automotive and things like that.
A lot of supply chain disruption, sure.
Right. So as a consequence, we had access to a lot of skilled labor in manufacturing that we were able to, they were readily available, which they may not have been readily available before. So the city was also very good at connecting us to companies that were looking at downsizing. And then we, I would say, almost had first pick or being able to interview people that were going to be downsized. They were helping us connect to those organizations. So those companies, we were able to pull some good people out of, hire them. So that's on the people side. On the land sourcing and the other side of things, the Auburn Economic Development Group, headed by Phil Dunlap, he was very helpful very quickly to say, okay, let's look for places. You have land, but you need to move faster. So are there spots close by, within, reasonable distance where you can have extra warehouse space, where you don't have to greenfield, where you can actually retrofit existing factories? And again, they knew which companies were closing down, which companies were
Right.
downsizing, so they were able to get access to things a lot faster for us.
Okay. Now, of course, one of the reasons that we're reaching out to you this week, obviously, is because of Moderna's announcement on Monday. Um, Assuming Moderna is able to get FDA approval, when would you expect? How does that work? Do you send them the vials and they fill them up? Do they send you the stuff and you fill them up? How does all that work?
So Moderna basically, think of it this way: they invent the vaccine, they partner with another company to actually mass produce the vaccine. Then
Gotcha.
there's another company that fills the vaccine, and then there's us who actually manufacture the vials. So
Okay.
we manufacture the vials. It's under the quality specification defined by Moderna. We send those vials to the filling company, the company who actually into the vials. And then they send it out, and then Moderna manages the distribution. In this case,
Right.
probably with the federal government.
Right.
We've been shipping them vials since August,
Okay. Okay.
right? So we've been already been shipping vials to the companies, including Moderna, since August, and they've been filling and going through their process.
Okay. Now, obviously, since no one knows how COVID is going to shake out, it's a new phenomena. Uh, I would guess you've obviously got a big market for the COVID-19 vaccine with this technology. What going? How do you sort of keep up? You know,
Well,
what other markets are available to you with this with these
so
vials?
if you look at backing out a little bit, so COVID is a portion, but we are not necessarily the most suitable for all COVID, right? We're suitable for what I would call the biological, more advanced COVID vaccine. So any of the mRNA vaccines,
Right.
anything that's DNA related, those
Okay.
kind of vaccines. Regular vaccines, run of the mill that are coming out later, we don't add any extra value. They usually go with a
Okay.
much
Okay.
cheaper commodity kind of glass. Our market traditionally is the biotechnology market, which today makes up about 48% of the total pharmaceutical market.
Uh-huh.
These are typically seen in chronic therapies such as rheumatoid arthritis, multiple
Oh,
sclerosis, most of the cancer therapies, advanced cancer therapies, those kind of ophthalmic indications for macular degeneration. So these are, for lack of a better word, expensive, more advanced technological drugs. That has always been our market. That's the market we've been serving with companies like a Novartis, for another example. And then the mRNA vaccines happen to also fit in that category, but they also have a large pipeline that is beyond COVID. right? So they
Sure.
were never, both all these companies who have the mRNA, they were not building a COVID vaccine in their pipeline. It was always about
Right.
oncology and other rare diseases. And because of the technology, they were able to pinpoint the DNA setup of the COVID vaccine or the COVID virus, and then manage vaccine development around that. So beyond this, our business in the biological space has been growing. It's been, for lack of a better word, gangbuster. It's been growing very fast. And this, COVID almost kind of accelerated that by getting into, higher volume on the vials. Syringes, we were already doing, pretty decent volumes to start with.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, I'm a monthly user of a Novartis product, so I probably already use one of your products. Um, okay, so as far as your footprint locally, the obvious question is that you guys, a crisis happens, people are out of work, you've got jobs for them. Um, is this? I mean, are you going to need this type of support from the size of a workforce going forward?
Yeah, and it's always because there's always constant product development and manufacturing. And this was probably in our numbers 3, 4 years from now. So what it's done is it hasn't changed our business plan. It's more accelerated it, right? So we're always looking for good people on the production floor, on in quality management roles, quality technicians, quality inspectors, and of course engineers. We have a great access to engineering talent of the universities near us. So yeah, we're constantly looking to hire.
Okay, okay, and just to conclude, it sounds like at least as far as the COVID vaccine goes, you've been shipping since August, and your customer, you're taking care of your customers. Production continues. Um, I guess my last question would be. Um, Well, actually, I think you answered my last question. Obviously, just about how you guys are going forward. So I don't need to. I know you're very busy. I appreciate you making time for me today.
No
Uh,
problem.
we'll figure out the video end of this and get it posted. This package will probably appear over the weekend on
Okay.
our website. I don't know. I've got to talk to Sarah about that. I see she's still on the video conference. But yeah, just if we could get this, I've recorded the audio as well, and I think we're Sarah and I are going to meet your guys at 11 o'clock over there and
Perfect.
get some B-roll and things like that too. So I think we're in pretty good shape. Again, all of this I've I write a lot about. I cover an engineering school here at Auburn, so gadget stories are always really cool.
Yeah.
And this story is this story is just so interesting on so many levels to our local readers. I really appreciate you guys making time for
Maybe
us.
one key point, because if you're a gadget guy, you might appreciate it. So the technology itself is highly used in Silicon Valley for microchip development, right? So what we've invented was this process called plasma enhanced chemical vapor deposition. It's a mouthful, but what it is, it's used in Silicon Valley for microchip development. It's never been successfully applied to containers for medical product use. So that's really one of the things that we've invented. We perfected that. We have over 300 patents on the process, the product, the quality standards, everything like that. So it's really cool taking something that's been around for a while and kind of tweaking it to make it work for this technology. So from a gadget perspective, it's
Yeah.
kind of
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I don't profess to understand how all this stuff works, but I think it's all really cool. So again, I appreciate your time.